Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Schifrin, and I'd like to call the planning board meeting of December 9th, 2024 to order at 6:31 p.m.
Carol Haas is present.
Arbitarian present.
Andrew Shepherd present.
Laura Schifrin present.
Lance McNally present.
Thank you, everyone. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To thank all of our veterans and all of those currently serving our country and all of our first responders. Thank you. The meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Town of Townsend YouTube channel. 1.4 Chairman's additions or deletions. I'd like to just state that our Administrator Beth Baxton had a medical issue this past week, and she's stabilized and hopefully will be back with us soon. We wish her well. Because of that, we have a couple things that we're not doing tonight, and that is the minutes of November 19th, I think it was, meeting are to be moved to either December 23rd or the first meeting, which I think is January 13th. What is your pleasure? We don't know when they'll be ready.
So
I won't be available on the 23rd at all.
Okay, and I won't be here physically on the 23rd.
I'll be remote.
You'll be remote as well.
I'll be here. As long as there's no snow or
Yeah.
ice or ice.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Okay, for that, and then under, well, we'll go into work session when we go there. I don't know. I don't have the capability, or maybe you will. Number one, see if there's any correspondence in your
We've got one.
Okay,
From
fine.
Bloomberg.
I just want to know if I was deleting that. And then also, can you find for 3.1 the discussion on zoning amendments? Well,
Yeah, I got 3.1.
Doing that, okay. So those are the only changes that I would have. And so we have a few minutes. Perhaps we can go right to, well, number one, let's take care of, if it's okay with the board, 4.1.
The correspondence.
Yes, let's just take that out.
4?
4.1.
The correspondence.
That's the correspondence,
Okay.
and Andrew will do that.
So the first one that's in here is the 18 Main Street decision from us as the Townsend Planning Board. So I won't read through that. The next one, we have Lunenburg notices. Let's see, public hearing. Planning board will hold, the Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a hearing on December 9th today at 6:05 p.m. to hear and review applications for special permit and stormwater management permit for PSG Realty 281 LLC for the construction of a common driveway to serve 3 single-family home lots as part of a proposed development of the site. The location is 171 Arbor Street in Lunenburg. There was also the notice of decision for 29 Main Street from the Townsend Planning Board. I believe that looks like it may be it. Yes, that's it for correspondence.
Okay, thank you. And then whatever is in the portal for the received from the Montezut Regional Planning Commission and other agencies, which you have in the portal. There's nothing in as copies here, but I know that there have been emails sent out in references to grants. And I have talked to, and mentioned them to Nelson, so that he talks to whoever in town is supposed to be doing the grant applications.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just heard last Thursday that there is some money for historic buildings,
Oh, okay.
for renovations and stuff like that, and the town hall could use some repairs, and I mentioned that to the historic commission as well.
That would be nice.
Yeah. And that's about all I remember. Okay, so number 5, education and training is there for your information, as well as 5.2, the library. Okay, so now let's go into the portal, because we still have a few minutes. On 3.1, what do you see for the,
We get 2 folders. We get the 2022 warrant article for age restricted development bylaw that never went to vote.
and that's what we have that's what you have in front of you.
And there's the 2025 stormwater management zoning amendments by MRPC.
Okay, why don't we talk about that one?
Okay, so this includes the ADU site plan approval amendments and the annual town meeting warrant accessory apartments in residential district text of bylaw from Joe Boyle.
Okay, and you don't have that, Adam?
I don't, for these, I heard you reference before. This is something I presume members have access to,
Yes.
some sort of a OneDrive
It's a
portal. I don't
town
have
thing.
access as a
Okay.
member of the public, so
So,
Let me download them and send them to you real quick.
if you'd email.
Yeah,
me,
would
that'd be
you?
helpful.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can do it, Andrew. If it's easier.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, Lance.
nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I remember seeing the email and that he had sent, I remember that you were on it.
Madam Chairman,
Mhm.
I just wanted to know, alert the public that there's a webinar on this AD accessory dwelling units. They're gonna be at 10 o'clock tomorrow, 9 AM tomorrow,
9 AM
yes.
on the 10th.
On the 10th, and another one on December 16th. And it's for public awareness about the legislation. I do have the web link, but I don't know how to get it to you.
You have the web link?
Yep.
Let me see. Maybe Andrew knows how to do this,
Yeah, we
because
can
he's
do that.
young, he's young and he's fast. It would take me a little bit to figure it out.
Here, let me just click on this. So, what does it say? The ADU draft regulations webinar and public comments and hearing is 2 webinars with the same content on December 10th at 9 AM and December 16th at 11 AM. The webinars will be an opportunity for you to learn about what is in the draft regulations.
Way to send the link.
Yeah, so maybe if we send the Beth when she gets back,
Just forward that email.
yeah, we can do that. So
Just forward the email. You have it in an email?
Yes,
Yeah,
gonna
just
forward it right
forward
now.
the email,
to,
Beth. You can forward it to me too. I think I got an email, because I know I planned on doing it tomorrow. I plan on doing it tomorrow morning at 9.
here at our, I've got Beth's email up.
So you should have enough time. You should have, is that enough time for you to get information to Beth and myself before the selectmen's meeting on the 17th.
So I don't know, because I don't know what.
So just forward it
So let
then.
me see, I just saw Lance's email come in. So let me
Okay.
look at the scope of what's. And Lance just sent me a third email, so there's multiple emails, so I'll see how comprehensive this is. What I will say is, with respect to age-restricted development, I don't need to perform too comprehensive a review of that bylaw from 2022, because I reviewed it back in
Yeah, right.
2022,
Mhm.
when it was supposed to go to town meeting and then it never did.
Right,
So it sounds like we've also got two other bylaws that you're referring to, that are accessory dwelling units and
I thought it was a
water
site
resource
plan.
protection.
Wasn't part of its site plan review?
He did
It was
reference that
minor
in the meeting.
language, that wasn't anything big.
I sent you 4 emails, Adam.
Right, so I've got those. So number one is the age restricted development bylaw. In fact, my initials are in the title, so that's the version I reviewed in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The second email is accessory apartments in the residential district. So I'll have to review that. I haven't looked at that yet. I haven't received it yet. The third is site plan approval amendment. So I'll have to look at how comprehensive those are. When we met a couple of weeks ago, the discussion was that we'd undertake those amendments in 2 steps. So I need to see how comprehensive this step is, and I'll take a look and see if that's something that can be done for the upcoming town meeting.
Okay.
And then the fourth email is a second version of the age restricted development bylaw. It's called version 2. So I don't know what the difference between version 1 and version 2 is, but I can compare the two
Okay,
and determine what the
he must be
difference is.
offering us a choice, I think.
The only caveat, and this actually ties in nicely with what Robert was just referring to, as it relates to the accessory dwelling units bylaw, is that I had warned a few months ago when there was some discussion about whether the town ought to immediately pursue an amendment of its bylaws to bring it into compliance with state statute, that some communities were doing that.
Yeah.
But the risk was that we knew that there were forthcoming regulations from the state, and we didn't know what they were going to say yet. Well, we still don't know for sure, except 24 hours ago, they released the draft regulations. They're about 7 pages.
Oh, and that's why the webinars?
Correct.
Okay,
So they're still in draft form, so
Yeah.
they're awaiting feedback from the public. There's a
Okay.
public comment period under state law whenever regulations are promulgated before they're finalized. But that should give us some guidance as to what we think the state is gonna do. So I can take a look at that and then compare it to what MRPC is proposing, and make sure that the two jive.
I think that, just this Thursday, they did announce at the MRPC meeting that, Air, Shirley, and they mentioned 4 towns around us, Pepperell have all approved their ADU bylaw already. Even though, you know, we had just discussed what you just said.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so now we've got that, 3.1 done for the moment, okay, because they've just been sent to Adam, and we'll see what he has to say. Basically, what's in there is what we discussed 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
okay? All right, very good. And we are fast approaching. I do not, see a sign-in sheet, and, everybody will have to sign in for the public hearing.
Make one on the back of this.
Yes, please. Just everyone who's here, please sign in, except the board members, okay? Okay, 2.1 here is at 6:45 PM, 1 Depot Street Extension. Applications for age-restricted development, site plan review, special permit, minor stormwater management permit. I'd like the board members to introduce themselves, please.
Carol Hoff is present.
Robert Therin present.
Andrew Shepherd present.
Lance McNally present.
Laura Schiffern present. Good evening, everyone. Don't have to read those. Okay, so I am inviting you up to make your presentation. I'm assuming you're with Dillis and Roy.
Yes, Greg Roy, Dawson
Greg
Roy.
Roy, okay, welcome. And again, I need to have everybody sign these. Are you here for the public hearing now?
Public, I just can't get the planning board meeting itself. I don't know any
Oh.
specifics.
Well, welcome.
The public, the hearing for,
This is 1 Depot Street Extension. Did you sign in?
no,
Okay, you have to sign in, everybody.
I just thought I'd come to start going to meetings.
Yes, that's fine. We welcome all our residents.
Should I present from the, I'm prepared to present from an easel formally, or it doesn't seem like we have a lot of people in the room, so I could also just do it from the table here, whatever you guys want.
Whatever you want.
Well,
And I mean, if it works for everybody
Yeah.
here, fine.
is that okay if we just do it from the table? Sure. More.
Yes.
Formal? Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
great. I'll be brief here. Okay, we're ready to go. Again, my name is Greg Roy with Dawson Roy. I appreciate your time this evening. I'll try to be brief as I can, but I'm here representing the applicants, Kevin Smith and Ken Tully, who are here. I think a lot of you, if not all of you, know them. And we are presenting this evening a project for an over 55 development at 1 Depot Street, as you read. We had previously submitted plans depicting a 6-unit project in a duplex configuration. We're proposing 3 duplex units, so a total of 6 units. We have now gone through one iteration of staff comments and town department comments. The applicants have also been before the Zoning Board of Appeals to seek some relief on the project. So we did do just late last week, issued revised plans addressing many of the comments that we received. Most significantly, I think, was the density. We reduced the density from 6 units down to 5 units. So, and that was really a formula that you have only allowing 4 units per acre for duplex in your bylaw. So that was the significant change that we made. But I just want to give you a brief overview of the site. Give you the sort of the lay of the land, so to speak. We have Depot Street here, of course, in this Depot Street extension that extends right here. We're proposing to access the site off of Depot Street extension, which is a private way. We would extend I'll call it a driveway because it's really, it doesn't really rise to the level of a road in this case. But we would extend the driveway into the site and access the units through that driveway access. Each of the units would have a garage, 1 garage bay, and then a parking space outside of the garage. And then we've also included some additional visitor parking right here as you enter the site. So we have some other plans, talking off this particular plan, but we have some other plans that document the parking in a little bit more detailed way. Thank you. We have done soil testing for the proposed septic systems on the site. We're proposing to do 3 separate septic areas, 1 for each of the buildings. Those are shown here on this plan. Soil testing has been done for those. That'll of course be permitted by your Board of Health. So that'll be a separate permit track. And we're also proposing a connection to the public water system. One of the comments we received was from the water district wanting us to show separate and distinct water services to each building. This plan revision did change that, did make that change. So we're showing 1 water service here and then 2 water services, 1 here and then 1 up that would come up in there. So separate water services to each building. And then I think the other thing that we should let me just
I have a
Oh, sure,
question
go
on
ahead.
this.
Yeah.
You're showing this as unit 1,
Yeah.
but it's still the size of these
Yeah.
2 units.
Yeah.
So is that
So
a mistake?
no,
You're
no.
gonna fix that?
No, I don't know if you want to address that, Kevin.
What I had asked Greg to do was, when I was here at one point, Bob Bob had mentioned that, you know, he thought the density appeared to be too tight. So we decided to bring it down to 1 unit. The reason I left the box that size is to give me a little bit of flexibility when I position the single unit. If it would be in this building envelope.
Okay.
And that's kind of customary. And I think Bob would probably agree that, you know, in a lot of cases, it'll just show a building envelope. In this case, we just left this the size, but it would be 1 unit. It may go this way.
Yeah,
May put a little twist in it. It just gives us some latitude to try to put it in there where it's gonna look the nicest.
right. And it might, correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, but it might not be, it might be shaped slightly different than one side of this, right?
Okay.
So we thought as a placeholder that we'd keep it. One of the things we did under this,
Can I make a suggestion on that topic?
Sure, Bob.
One of the things that in the site plan is disturbing is the setback on 5 and 4. So I'm just suggesting maybe if this was the 1 unit, we could avoid
You'd
that.
have the same here though. You'd have the same here. You have the same setback on this side. But I mean, obviously this is gonna come forward to that.
I just think,
Cause you've got a house here somewhere over in here.
well, we have setback problems here and here. So part of the thing that I'm seeing is happening here is like a pre-conceptual design to be applied basically throughout the complex. When the site parameters probably will need to have altering the physical footprint of the unit to comply. And so my thought is if this was 1 and it's the same size as 2 of those, in these 2 locations, there may be another building footprint prototype that would avoid the setback issue. Do everybody understand what I'm saying?
I'm a little confused.
Well,
I know what he's getting at. We could make this one comply to the larger setback. Is that what you're kind
We
of
can
getting
move
at?
this, we can
well,
move
I'm
this.
saying this one's fine with no.
Right, there's no
handicap
issues
at all.
there, right.
This one's asking for a lot of relief, and this one's asking for relief.
Mhm.
So
Could we
the
get-
applicant has agreed to reduce the number of units.
Right, yeah. I'm
Which is
one of the
us,
applicants,
which-
which is us, Bob.
Yeah,
Which is us.
right. So, so there was a preconceived prototype unit that was
Correct.
here. So that works very well here. So I'm saying in these 2 areas, maybe by altering this prototype unit position-wise or modifying this footprint, we could eliminate the setback issue.
Well, we could certainly eliminate the issue here. We could, there's no reason, we've got a footprint
Right.
twice the size
Right,
of
so
what we
that
need.
one
We
probably
could,
can be fixed without
Right.
any issue.
this one here, I'm not sure that we could tweak it enough to get it,
And still get everything
you
in,
know,
So,
and still get everything in.
mm,
so yeah, I guess we're looking for a little bit of relief.
mm,
yeah, we certainly are. So, you know, I reread the bylaw just tonight. Of course, don't have it memorized. But I think the section in your general requirements that requires the 30-foot setback in the over 55 development portion of the bylaw, it does allow your board some flexibility there. So it says, summarizing, structure shall be set 30 feet from the lot lines unless the planning board determines that another setback is appropriate, essentially. So you do have flexibility there.
I'm sure we do,
Yeah.
yeah.
We do.
I
Is
just
there a
wanted,
variance that can be granted?
well, I don't even think you need a
Or-
variance,
or-
Kevin. I think the planning board could make a finding that it, you know, that the way, and maybe we need to strike a little bit of a compromise here, but we can talk about that. But I think my point is the planning board has the ability under your under your bylaw for that flexibility. You don't have to, they don't have to get a variance. They can just make a finding that, and I'm not saying that you're going to, I'm just saying that you could.
No, but I understand
Yeah.
the developer's needs.
Yeah.
And, so in looking at this and what could be done, there's a lot of possibilities that could be done. But then when you do it, look at it from an economic standpoint, and how you practically can provide it and make it financially feasible and those things, they add more burden to the project. So for example, if you just take the square footages of these footprints, they could be collected a different number of ways to deliver the same number of units. However, if you took one of these and put it here, you'd have a 3 multifamily unit, and the code requirements and the construction costs would be far higher.
Right.
So, so I understand that and why this is an objective to me. I'm just saying this square footage that was here, with modifications to this footprint, because it obviously is double, it's the square footage of a sizable one. I agree that the code could be met.
Well, we wouldn't have to do it on both, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry?
We could tweak this so that we could come further into compliance.
I think by changing the footprint profile, you should be able to achieve everything you need.
Yeah, but I don't think we can get the, if you're, I don't know how that we can get there's no way you're sliding this thing over there. And
No,
keeping
the problem that
everything together.
you're having is that you're trying to
Well,
deal with.
you gotta get everything to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. And what doesn't work is these problems here. So I'm suggesting, and I'm not your architect or whatever here, changing the footprint of these buildings. All right, the profile of them should allow you to be able to get 2 here, maybe 1 there. But that's not my job, you know, but
If you went down to 4 units,
no, it's not a matter of reducing the
Yeah,
units.
units,
I
no.
think 5 units can be achieved here.
okay.
I'm just saying
What do you got here, Andrew?
what's being,
See, originally I thought it was 15 feet. So it was, but we were playing
It's
with
the
a different
underlying
set of
zone.
rules.
The underlying zone.
It was 15 feet,
right,
and that's what it was based on originally.
well,
Which it meets.
It meets that.
Yeah, we don't derogate from the underlying
No.
zone.
No, we're within the
What is the
parameters of the,
detriment? I know that it's not what the bylaw says, but what is, you said it was detrimental here. What is detrimental?
well, first of all, the town, when it prepared this bylaw, established requirements for it. So we have a plan before us that doesn't deliver that. So it's, from my perspective, the town gave relief for this kind of application from its regular bylaw. And so they put parameters on that. And now we have a project that doesn't meet those parameters. And I'm discussing with the applicant that there may be other alternatives for them to do other than sticking with a fixed unit profile. So in other words, the floor plans and the shape of the building could probably be altered to A, minimize if there's any impact, or even eliminate it. And then there'd be no issue.
we can eliminate it for sure here. I don't think,
Or
or if we
eliminate
keep it, if we keep it right here on the 30-foot setback as a single unit, turned it,
Yeah, there's no problem here. It's just,
can we slide everything this way, 10 feet? As far as the access, this is the original access. This is the existing driveway. The existing driveway is right here today.
So in terms of
in terms of starting a project like this, you obviously start with the parameters you have and see how many units you can get out of this. And then you've made progress. You went from 6 to 5, but even though it went from 6 to 5, it's just a number. It's not an actual structure.
I understand what you're saying.
I think you understand what I'm addressing here.
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
I guess we were hopeful that, that we could talk with the board. I think it's the applicant's opinion, and again, you don't have to agree with that, that this layout, I think we could probably make this a lot more rectangular, if you will.
Well,
we could probably fit.
Let me just.
But no, hold on. I think that there's a way we could probably do it, to your point. We just think that this layout is going to allow for a little bit more aesthetic.
It'll look nice. It's gonna look
First of
nice.
all, let's just
tweak
let's just talk in terms of square footage here.
Yeah.
All right. The fact that this went from 2 to 1 gives a surplus of square footage.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, so that means we have more to play with. If you, and I'm suggesting, and I don't know the answer, but an
Understood.
approach would be
I appreciate your comments.
to take a preformed profile that you already have and turn it in the direction that's parallel to the property line, the setback line, okay? Now you had surplus place here, maybe you can, 2 separate ones,
No, I understand what you're saying. Just,
right?
I-
So these 2 separate ones
Oh, is it
may
2
have to
separate
have a
individual,
different
2
footprint
single
and may
units?
have a different square footage,
I
okay?
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
But there's no reason you can't deliver that I see.
Robert, I hear what you're saying.
My only concern is aesthetically, it just looks so nice, but you know what? I guess it is what it is. It was our goal to build something in there and we cut it down a unit because as we did the math, originally, the original CAD, I think, showed those 1.51. We had the thing designed at 6 units. When the final survey came back, it came back at 1.38. Never gave it a thought, left it as it was.
Right.
That became a question for Bob at our previous meeting. And Bob says, I just can't get on board with it. I understood, it's 4 units to the acre. That's simple mathematics. So we dropped that 1 unit off, didn't change the box length, thought we could kind of tweak this thing a little bit so it's going to aesthetically look nice. We're right in the center of town.
How many
Yeah.
feet are we talking about from the property?
We have it about 15, just over 15 feet, almost 16 feet.
I don't want
On
to,
this corner of this.
I don't want to be challenged in what you're saying here, but the aesthetics here, if I'm looking at that from Depot Street, I'm seeing just large masses of wall here. I'm not looking at the fronts of these buildings at all. So I have a hard time with that discussion, but and they are quite a ways from the building, the street. So just from my perspective, I think just taking one of these, I can't be designing it for you, but there's enough square footage here that 1 unit can go in a different orientation to the road. That extra square foot that's existing here, the other unit could be used. It's going to be the same square footage that you have here, but probably by repositioning them.
Well, now you're putting it into a drainage area.
Well, no, the drainage area was developed after the buildings were sited. Okay, so.
Well, it's done all together. It's done all together.
Okay, so.
It's planned all together.
Right, so
Yeah.
you start with what you want and you find out what you need to get there. And so obviously, it would seem very preliminary in the site analysis that you would try to achieve the setback requirements right away. If that means changing the building footprint and profile, that's what you do.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I will say that we did do a couple of other layouts.
Mhm.
You know, when we looked at it together with the applicants, you know, this is really what they wanted to do from an aesthetic site layout standpoint. I understand that it doesn't, we are asking for relief on that.
Well, you're putting us in the position.
Well, we are, and I understand that, and you may not be, you know, at the end of the day in a position to approve that, but it was the applicant's, desire to, try and convince you, because they felt that it was, you know, in the best interest of aesthetics. And I understand
Yeah,
aesthetics.
it was a location that, in my opinion, is perfect. I think it goes with what the intent was when they brought this on, was, and I stand firm by this, they were supposed to be in the downtown center. Sidewalks, walking distance to the center of town and all the town services.
Mhm.
What they've permitted so far is not any of the above in town. So, you know,
And-
we're
I
trying
hear
to
what
do
you're
Just
saying,
a
something.
Robert,
minute.
but I feel like we might be splitting hairs. I mean, I do get the point of the bylaw, and I do get that they're asking for relief. And certainly, you know, them making the effort to just reduce it down a unit for them as the developer, I mean, that's a pretty significant cut on their end.
No, the initial site plan was very ambitious to begin with. It had all these problems plus the density question.
Sure, I mean, you could stuff 10 pounds into a 5-pound sack, and I mean, I'm sure they could, you know, figure out a magic way.
But we
I
can
don't know
make
if
this,
I'm
we
too-
don't have a problem. We can tweak this and a different cottage style configuration.
Right.
That
Okay,
we
and I'd
can, we
like
can
to
do
hear
that.
from
We
a
just
couple
can't,
other
I don't
board
see how we
members.
can do it over here.
Lance, do you have any comments in reference to the plan?
You know, I mean, the applicant has put together a plan, and they're asking us for some relief in terms of the setback. And I think given the importance of 55 plus developments in Townsend, I'm certainly, would like to move forward.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, I like the location for the 55 and older dwelling. My only concern is if we start giving relief now, are we setting a precedence and are we gonna give relief to everybody else? And then what's the point of the bylaw? I mean, if we're not gonna follow our bylaws, then we either need to change them or do something. That's
What do they
Well,
think the
hopefully the
state's gonna
bylaws will
be?
change. Just a minute. Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to add to the public hearing on One Depot Street?
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
Hi. Sorry, everybody, that I'm late. I don't have anything to add other than the staff comments that were provided previously. I don't know.
At the last meeting, because I don't have any for tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave my comments previously.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, did you have any comments from the public? No. Okay.
I'm sorry, I covered everything that had to be.
I would just like to say, in reference to the plan, we have to remember that right across the street from this, if you're head on, are storage bins. It's a storage facility. So as far as I can understand wanting to keep it looking at other homes versus the storage facility makes a lot more sense on a buyer's end than because of the setbacks. That's my comment on that.
My opinion is I don't have any problem with the location and this use in that location. We've made as a community a provision for this kind of application. And then at that time, we established the standards for it. So what I see here is an encroachment on the standards in two different areas. And I also see that investing more time in studying the profiles of these units, that they can avoid a lot of this or at least minimize it. And so what I see here is a forced building prototype that's being applied in all 5 units, and that's where they want to stop. When I think there are other options available, that they can do it. So part of it is economics, okay? And I understand that too. So the economics is obviously better when you can repeat the same footprint over and over. However, in this instance, it's obvious the footprint that they use as a prototype doesn't fit the site. And it does in some instances, and like I say, it could in this instance, and possibly if these are separated. I don't know that, and but it's a matter of, I think that's what the initial problem here is, that these 2 areas should be reviewed with the different footprint, and we certainly can come a lot closer to what we asked for.
As I sit here and look at these plans, I guess one thing that we can do a little bit of work on this, but this one here, we're just gonna put it inside that line. It's gonna be within that building envelope. It's gonna be on that 30-foot line. That gives us a few feet maybe to move this around, slide this out, reconfigure this, Bob. Would you be happy if we could go to 22 feet? We can make it in all the corners, and we're gonna look for a little bit of relief on that one corner of that building.
On that side.
On that one unit, it'd be that one unit right there.
I would be happy with whatever improvements we can look at to make this less an issue.
That way we can.
My suggestion though.
Okay, what's
No,
on this side?
I
Is
get
there
what you're
another
saying,
house
and
there?
I think we can fool with this. We've got a little bit of space to work with.
Townsend House on the
I think we can fool it. I just don't know how we
Okay,
can
so
get
that
to the
would be
30.
closer to the house's
I'm looking at
property
something
on
just
that
like
side.
this, Bob, right
This
here.
one.
Yeah, where
This is
they
what
have
I'm
the
looking
lights.
at, right here along
Where
that
they
line.
have the property.
Can I
line
just illustrate
We're
better?
having that buffer issue.
would be somebody's property versus the storage facility. Okay.
Nobody's written.
Okay, I'm not gonna worry about the jogs.
Nobody's written
But-
a complaint about it.
That could help.
Nobody from the street.
So
Because,
forget
you know, I
the
know
predetermined
that
driveway and everything else, but
At least
that
more than
obviously
half of the
could help.
people are clueless in this town.
One here.
Anything goes on around
and
them.
another one over there would give you all 5.
It's gonna
I
look,
go
well,
with 90.
if I could say
There
something.
were- I was
There's
trying
only
to-
10
This,
votes.
this is more like a village look rather than, now you're gonna have a single, a double. It's
Try to
going,
be kind, so just because you
Well,
don't get a
no,
comment. you
I
may
don't
get a
know.
comment.
I
with a
don't.
little bit of relief, you know, if you give us a little bit of relief, meet us partway, I think we can make this all happen. You know, can we reconfigure these buildings? Probably can, but I'm not sure that we reconfigure it enough, because there's small footprints, as you know.
And the small
To try to get a garage, living area, 2 bedrooms in.
This is the
small
There's
layout.
house,
still all the
it's not as
common
easy as-
areas, and everything, and
I admit
everything to
that
fit,
is the
you know.
problem,
Yeah,
okay?
we're trying to,
But it's not our job to find the remedy.
No, no.
all right?
No, yeah, but I guess what we're asking for is, would you give us some relief on this?
I don't want to be obstructive. I want to be creative and helpful.
Okay.
So I really, I don't want to dictate what you should be doing here. And, but I'm pointing out some options for you to consider. So rather than just being limited to this profile, I'm sure that works fine here and you've built it 100 times and you know what your cost is going to be. And I know the economics of that. However, in this particular situation, that program doesn't work. So one option may be to not try to force this prototype in these 3 units. And the way that may be done is to come up with a new prototype for the remaining 3 units. I'm not gonna suggest that, and I do know when I suggested that to you, that's more expensive to deliver, okay? The minute I suggest this to you, that is still more expensive to deliver than what you had hoped to. And that's a reality, and it's all feasibility in terms of a developer goes. But, and I think this board has in the past and still wants to provide whatever relief we think is reasonable. But we need to see where a demonstration that this is the best the developer could suggest or work with, you know? And so I hate to be the one presenting this, but then on the other side, representing the community and what we plan to do.
Would you be opposed if we change this and be able to approve it on a sideline relief of 22 feet instead of 15?
Well, let me
Give
just
us
put
relief
this in
of
more
8 feet.
generic terms, okay? Let's just say we took 10 feet off the back of this building, okay? And put the 10 feet on the side. I'm done. You can use the same approach to this.
Yeah, but it doesn't work
Doesn't
with a layout of
We
it.
can't make it
It's
work.
just,
It doesn't work for you with the layout of this building. What you're telling me that you want to use this plan everywhere. And it doesn't work. We should have seen that.
But they're using a popular plan that the buyers or inhabitants would like to see.
Not necessarily. It's still going to
I
be
think
designed
so.
for aged housing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be that plan. No. So
You're also, at this point, you're gonna send us back to the drawing board because now we're not gonna be able to move forwards with this for a while. Is there any way that the board would consider an approval of?
I'm only one member.
Within say a 22 foot off the sideline setback and give us an 8 foot relief of an area that's 8 by 40.
I'm only one member of the board.
No, I recognize that.
I think that this plan that they have now versus the other one that we approved on Fitchburg Road, which doesn't face the road, which I think was one of their hardships there, but they're only doing 2 per building because people like end units.
They don't want.
And they're having
No, you discussed Fitchburg Road. We approved it based on what we understood and appreciated at the time. Since it's been built, another prototype plan that's forced on a site, we see that the parking.
But they're not doing custom homes, Robert. You're saying a forced plan. They're not doing custom homes.
Don't tell me this is the only adult living plan in the world. It's not
This is
true.
not a bad plan.
That you're
I know,
talking
I'm not
about
an
a
engineer,
floor
but
plan.
I see a
all right?
lot of homes.
I've made my point, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I haven't spoken too much. I mean, I think they're gonna need some relief in some form. I do think that we take, as the planning board, a detailed look at each individual submission that we get, and that each situation is different. I do feel like this one, with its location in the center of town, by the Townsend House Restaurant, by the storage facility.
Fire department, ambulance.
Sure, I'm okay with the relief that they're asking for, and I'm okay with moving
Because of the
forward.
location.
Fine.
That's not every place in town. We're not setting a
Listen,
huge
I don't
precedent
have to
here.
agree. We
I
can
know.
all agree to disagree.
Disagree.
Thank you.
If you could do the 22 feet.
Well, the applicants are welcome that.
Then I'm good with that.
They're okay with that?
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna request that you bring us back your highest and best. Let's pretend we're making a deal. Okay, you're asking for some relief, and please bring us back what you would like, you would be able to live with, but still making it look nice, not facing the storage facilities.
Yeah.
They didn't have to face the Townsend House. That would be.
That's kind of why I'm looking at this, if you'd be willing to approve this plan with number 4 buildings set ahead or redesign so that we carry this a 22-foot offset to the property line, and the buildings stay in this configuration. It's like Bob had mentioned earlier, you know, we can do this or something to one of these units and maybe get things to work and keep this line somehow, set one. There's got to be something. I agree with Bob on that. That there's got to be a way to get closer to that. I just don't know how that we can get to the 30.
If we guarantee some kind of relief, not 30 feet, if there's a number.
Well, right now you're at 16
15
feet.
and 30 that we got, if say the number's 22 or 23 feet. If it's a matter, we got to pick up 6 feet off this corner, we could twist this thing, pull this forward a little bit, shift this a little bit. We have to be careful what we shift in here because of the natural heritage with it's a little bit complicated site. If this was a normal building, it would be a 15-foot setback anyway. It wouldn't even having this discussion.
That is,
it could be a
30-foot setback.
It could be a 6,500 square foot house in the center of Townsend.
that's true. So like, if you just did it by right building here, you could put it 15 feet from the lot line. And it could be bigger than that
True.
building.
So, having said that, do you think you could have something back to us for our next meeting,
Absolutely,
which is the 23rd?
absolutely. Wow,
We
Merry
wanna-
Christmas.
Well, there's
Or
no
we
way
could do
that,
January.
there's no way that the board would approve the site plan based on a 22-foot setback on that sideline. Everything else stays the same. This stays within the parameters.
We could
I'm
still
okay with
issue.
it.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
you
the
got
board
the-
would look at whatever you want to present.
Yeah, but I think what he says, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time and effort and money to redesign
You
something.
redesign
I say,
the whole
oh,
damn
you know, you're
plan.
still not at 30 feet.
Yeah.
You know, you're only at 23 feet, so
You know,
we
why
just
don't we, why
wasted
don't
a
you
whole
just,
lot of time and money.
you know, we've got all the stormwater design, the common space design, the trash pads design, the stop signs design, the drainage, everything is stormwater. Everything is done, the septics are designed. The only thing that we've got is this little issue right here. If, you know, say buildings must be, you know, we'll approve the plan based on the site plan is, and building number 4 needs to set at 22. No building 4 or 5 can't be any closer than 22 feet to the sideline. That picks up 8 feet from the minimum. If it was a 15-foot setback, it gives us a little bit of relief right here on that, only that. I agree with Bob. We can play with this a little bit. And, you know, like I say, widen this building maybe 4 feet somehow and get things to tweak. Leave these 2 buildings the same, or leave these 2 sites the same.
Well, we comply with this.
Yeah, well, this one would, this, and the right
Yeah, we
side,
would not need.
yeah, the building number 1 will comply to the 30-foot.
That would be the only.
Building number 1 unit would comply to the 30-foot setback.
And the other 2 would be 22?
And there would be a 22 for big, no, 1,
Maximum.
because
It's really just.
it's only 1 unit. That, and we're still getting it a little closer. That way we can at least plan on moving forwards here. Now we're gonna waste another 2 weeks and then 20 days for appeal and everything else. I'm just trying to.
Madam Chair,
A little bit.
Yes, Aaron.
if it would be helpful, I'm happy to work with the applicants and when Beth comes back to work to try to make sure that all of the parameters are met within their plans and so that they come back with the latest and greatest, and hopefully it will fall within all the proper zoning requirements as well as it can before it comes back to the board.
All right, Aaron, I appreciate the assistance and I'm open to a motion.
Move to, well, I imagine we'll debate this, but to approve the plan as submitted with subject to a 22
22 foot left line setback.
22 foot left line setback on
Building number.
buildings number
unit
4
number
and 5
Yeah,
as presented in the plan.
and building number 1 will comply with the 30-foot
Yeah, so we won't
setback,
need to
although it's
address-
not shown. Yeah, but it's the box envelope
Sure.
is still on this one is,
So then,
we didn't move it, so
then I'll
it's still
amend the
within
motion
that.
and building 1 would be in compliance with the bylaw setbacks.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Lance, thank you. Any further discussion that you haven't said already?
Hmm?
That you haven't said already?
No.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
is that a vote to approve without
yes,
condition?
with the condition.
You didn't close the public hearing yet.
Oh, do I vote after I close the public hearing?
Yes, close the public hearing first and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Or
I get
incorporate
corrected
close
all the
your regular
time.
motion.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
thanks, Sam.
Okay, I'll take a motion to, well, we've heard from everyone here. So
Do you want me to amend my
I don't
motion?
feel I've slighted anyone. You're gonna,
I
take
move
it off
to
the table.
close
You're
the
gonna
public
remove it.
hearing and then approve the plans as submitted with the 22-foot setback on buildings 4 and 5. And building 1 will be in compliance with the original bylaw setback.
Is there a second to close the public hearing?
I'll second closing the public hearing.
Okay, we got a few of them. I need a roll call vote.
You want to do just
Roll-
closing the public
Just
hearing?
closing the public hearing. I need a roll call vote. Lance, do you want to start online?
Yes,
To close the public
I
hearing?
vote yes.
Andrew, yes.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Carpenter, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes. Now the public hearing is closed. Now I'll entertain a motion in reference to the permit before us for 1 Depot Road.
I move, as mentioned earlier, to approve the plan as written, buildings 4 and 5, subject to a 23-foot setback, and then 22-foot setback, and then building 1, comply with the bylaw as it is written.
Can I add?
Lance will second.
Yes.
Before it's seconded. So you're voting on 3 permits. So you voted to approve the plan, but you're not voting to approve the plan. You're voting to issue 2 special permits and to issue a stormwater permit. So that's what the motion has to be. The plan accompanies those permits, but you need to vote to grant the permit. You can make one motion to grant all 3, or you can make 3 separate motions, I don't care. But you should specify that it's a special permit for age-restricted development, it's a site plan special permit, and it's a stormwater permit, because all 3 of those applications are pending before you effectively at the same time.
Okay.
All right, how's this? We'll try this again.
Just closed it all.
Sorry.
Just,
So how's this? Move to approve the permits before us, subject to the
Just
conditions
read them out.
expressed. Period. Are you, okay, I'll read them all. Board, I move that the board approves the age-restricted development permit, the site plan review permit, and the special permit. Subject to the conditions expressed,
In the stormwater.
and the stormwater permit. There you go.
did you have all that for the minutes, Aaron? And there's a second?
Lance
Okay.
McNally seconds.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Lance McNally, yes.
Andrew Shepherd, yes.
Carpenter opposed.
Okay, Laura Schifrin, yes. It does pass, right? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Aaron, thank you for your assistance. You should sign that sheet. I think we've done everything.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We need more age, senior citizen stuff.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
Oh, you could have said that.
Oh, sorry. I I'm new to all of this.
That's okay.
See ya.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
You too.
Can I ask you, since we're not meeting anyone, can I ask you a question to do with the meeting yesterday, the Montechusett, that one I had with the Montechusett, I forget the name of the agency. It was,
Regional Planning Commission?
I think so. I think that's what that was. I tried,
Well, there's a few of them.
it was gonna talk about the town designation and different things like that. There was a meeting, and it was just basically a copy of the agenda. I went, because I tried clicking on the link and then I tried typing it in and wouldn't do it because I would have watched it via the link. So I just want to avoid that happening. Like, I want to be able to watch a meeting if it's going on somewhere. It was, what was it? Choose it. Karen, I think Karen Chapman was there.
Yeah, okay.
I know Karen.
Where did you see the link?
It was from the agenda that was like, it was a photocopy. It was on the town website. And it was on the planning board agenda, the Montechusett meeting agenda. And it said, have this big long link, but it was just like a picture. You can't click on a picture. So, I mean, I thought it was gonna be a link at first. I tried clicking on it and then I typed it all in manually. It was a big long one. It didn't work.
Oh, I don't do very well with our website, so I can't instruct anybody on it.
But yeah, it wasn't, it somehow didn't connect to where I needed to go. So I just wanted to avoid that happening to anybody. And all the people that tried to do that, and I want everybody to have access to what's going on.
Erin, maybe you could pass that along to Nelson and whoever is doing the website.
Sure. It also might be that I'm not sure which meeting specifically you're referring to, but a lot of times on the calendar, you can actually click on the meeting and it will bring you to the direct link. That's how I very often get into the meetings.
On the calendar itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that might be a helpful shortcut if you want to try that in the future.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I just was disappointed because I was gonna look at it and watch it and I'm like, oh, I can't do it.
I would mention at this time that if you're interested in any of the boards, we have volunteer forms on the website, or you can get one at the town clerk's office. And I know that we have lots of openings at the town, so
Well, I
you
was
can get
thinking about
involved.
the Community Preservation Act. I was thinking about that.
Well, there is an at-large member that it'll be noticed. I'm not sure if the notice is up yet for it, but you can certainly stop at the town clerk's office and she could help you.
Okay, that sounds good. But anyways, getting back to how the designation of the town, I wasn't sure what that meant. See, I couldn't see the meeting, so I was like, does that mean like from rural to something else? I mean, I was confused about the designation. It was just like, I was looking at the different projects available for, on the agenda. So that was one of them that was on there.
For NRPC, for the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission?
Yes.
Probably talking about grants. They do a lot with grant money and different projects for different cities and towns. There's 23 cities and towns that belong to Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, not just Townsend. And they work in doing things that perhaps many towns can use the efforts they do. That's why it's regionalized.
To catch it, to get up to speed, I guess I can get the minutes of the meeting.
Sure. Sure. Anybody else have anything to bring up? No. Okay, so I don't think we have a public hearing for the 23rd. So we'll see what happens. You're going to be remote. I would be remote. You won't be here.
I will I check my schedule. I can be here. I'll be here.
You can
person.
be
I'll be
here.
here
This
anyways.
next meeting that you guys are gonna hold,
Is the 23rd.
and so people can come to it because you're gonna be here, or how does it work? Like,
Yeah, I think anyone, or it'll be remote. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mind getting out of the house.
yeah. One could come and maybe sit and watch.
I'll be here.
And I'll be there with you, Andrew.
Okay, all right. So
Otherwise,
the
I'll
three
be
of us.
remote if I have my
Maybe Rob?
computer
Oh, no,
home
Rob.
back.
I won't be here.
All right,
And I won't be here. And Patrick might be. I
Sure.
don't know. Okay.
it's gonna be a good meeting.
Anything else, Adam, that you wanted to bring to our attention while you're here?
Not for me.
I just have a question about bylaws. How often are bylaws like changed for specific housing developments or individual houses? Is it usual to change, adapt the
No,
bylaws?
it's not, but they should be. Bylaws are like a living document. They can be changed every 6 months if we wanted to.
Because I heard two other opinions stating, why do we have bylaws? So I'm just a little confused about the process. Like I said, I'm new to this.
The
So
planning
it's
board
just-
is here for approving developments.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like was brought out this evening, we need some age restricted development. And there are certain parcels that are good for it and certain parcels that aren't, which don't apply to the whole town. So we sit here trying to judge what would be the best thing for the town.
What is the purpose of amending the bylaw in this case? I mean, what was the problem with it? I mean, maybe I should address this
Setback.
too. What's a setback? I don't understand the terminology.
Property lines.
Here's the way I see this. The bylaws are all a product of town meetings, okay? So the town, at a town meeting at whatever date, established the zoning districts throughout the community,
Okay,
all right? And then as things evolved, they made certain provisions for different types of things. So a special permit says, even though it's zoned for this, we will allow this,
okay.
okay? Then it goes on to say, if we allow that, these are what the requirements would be to be approved, okay?
Okay.
So on this particular thing, this applicant is requesting a special permit for a special use building profile, which is for age housing. Or what is it? What is that the right word?
Age restricted.
Age restricted housing. Okay, so what that means, at the time the town meeting voted for the standards for that,
Okay.
that's what they would say, okay, if they can do that, then we'll have it happen, okay? So we have an applicant here that not only wants the special permit, he wants us to reduce the standards that the town said that they would accept, okay? So I see that, and I recognize that it's a problem. It's not what the town expected, A.
Yes,
And
but,
then
but
B-
Robert, let's be
Excuse me,
clear.
Let me
Let's be
finish.
clear that bylaws,
I have the form right now. You can speak after I'm done. So I wanted to at least show a movement in the direction to minimize the amount of relief they want, and show them how that might be achieved. I personally think that this was done solely because they have another plan they've used everywhere else over and over. And you look at the drawings, and who prepared the plans? Advanced House Plans. It's not even an architect, all right? So they want to use this because they built it 1,000 times. They don't have to pay for an architect every time, okay? And then force this on a site, and it doesn't work with the site.
First of all, we're not supposed to be discussing this. It's already after the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
So we're not,
So,
okay?
Lori,
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to make the point to the woman's questions that
Regarding
we have bylaws.
Right,
And there's parts of bylaws that the planning board has no leeway on.
Okay.
And there are parts of the bylaws that the town provides the planning board to have leeway on. And that was my only point.
Thank you, Lance. I appreciate that. Let me tell you, I had one other.
well, thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
all.
Thanks for coming.
I'm gonna, I don't think Adam had anything else. And did anybody else see the question about the, stormwater drain, maintenance?
No, stormwater drain
Would be in
maintenance.
the
No,
portal.
I'm gonna-
There
I'm
was a
gonna
comment that was,
Thank you for pointing everything, it's just very interesting.
It was where,
Um,
Erin?
Aaron, Patrick
yes,
had a question.
yes,
Patrick had
I,
a question about the stormwater maintenance. And was that,
so the question
looked
that,
funky to me, but it looked funky to him because he had been in a community where he had an experience with a community drain. That's as far as I got.
yes, so the comment from Patrick says, I have a comment regarding the long-term maintenance of the infiltration basin. Is the intent that the maintenance is passed on to future residents, or does the town have easement for such things? The plan said to be determined. When I lived in Alabama, we had a very large basin and poorly designed water management within the neighborhood, so it wasn't as effective as it could be. Plus, the basin was a huge eyesore at nearly 20 feet deep. Our town maintained easement for mowing and upkeep. They didn't take great care of it. This one is much smaller, so less of a concern.
Do you want to just mention that comment to, because I probably should have passed it along to them, just to the engineer and see what they say back. So just so that we have a comment to give back to Patrick, or if
Sure.
there's a concern, okay? I appreciate that.
Can I comment on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Can I comment on that?
The answer is it's private. It's
This,
on private property. It's private.
Oh,
this
okay.
surfaced before, as far as the maintenance of these things and who has rights to go and to correct things that are a problem. In the past, when that kind of stuff is surfaced on different applications, and my experience with some other communities here is one remedy to take care of that is to have a bond provided with the applicant so that the work, the corrective work or the maintenance work would be guaranteed. And I experienced that with a solar wind farm situation. And so the community was concerned what happens if they don't maintain the windmills and or if there's problems as a result of it. The remedy was for the applicant or the person doing the work had to provide a bond.
Yeah.
So in an event something happened, the funds were available, whether it was to the owner of the whatever the project was or the community. I just wondered if we could have a policy like that that would eliminate concerns about a project that's 30 years old and we don't even have the records of what are readily available and what the terms were. I'm just tossing it out as a concept.
The last few years have been I don't even remember when Lance was on. Did we have stormwater drain permits then? Because it's more.
Yes, we
more
did.
recent. So I don't know.
And we do have on projects, we do have in many cases where applicants do have to post bonds.
Okay.
Yeah, on developments.
Yeah.
Developments, not specifically to the stormwater management. Well, stormwater management, they have to have reports anyway.
And
At first it's
inspections.
and then it's every quarter, and then it's like every year.
Right.
That's to the town.
The question is, not so much the reports. So the inspections are conducted, okay? It's when a problem occurs that becomes a problem, is how to enforce the corrective work.
Okay, understood. Understood. I don't know that we've had any failures in our tenure on
We
here.
haven't had failures, we've had complaints though.
I don't remember.
Um,
Do you know anything about that? Like when something, say, a stormwater drainage goes defective or fails?
Well, I do. So, I mean, different communities approach this from different perspectives. One perspective is that communities want to be closely involved in the oversight of these projects in perpetuity, and want to require, as a condition of permit issuance, that projects, to your point, be bonded or some form of surety be provided to provide the town with a financial source in the event that the stormwater management system is not maintained or requires repairs that are not undertaken. The community then has the ability to, after issuing typically a demand to the property owner or to the property owners, if it's a for sale development with multiple owners that might form a homeowners association or a condominium association, if they refuse to comply, then the town would have access to the monies necessary to do the work. Other communities say that's a lot of paperwork. For every project that we approve, we're now going to have to accept the bond, and we're going to have to monitor, and we're going to have to enforce. What you do have in your stormwater rules and regulations, and this is something that was recently amended, is this provision that requires the grant of a license. It previously said it needed to be an easement, and that was challenging because for the town to accept easement interests, the town has to go to town meeting in each instance. And so I had discussions with Beth about a year and a half ago about, well, how do we remedy this? And the answer was, well, you modify it so that it need not be an easement, it can be a license, or you have a provision that says, unless waived by the authority, well, this is actually the old language, unless waived by the authority, stormwater management easement shall be granted to the town. I'm fairly certain you voted on the amendment, it's just not showing up on E-code, so maybe it hasn't been incorporated. I think it now says licenses. So that gives you the right of entry. So now you have a right of entry by way of a license to perform necessary repairs. So if you get a call from
Because of what I thought, and I thought it was an easement, we were going for.
Right.
Okay.
so we discussed the
we just did
easement
this,
part.
yes.
And I was happy with the remedy for that.
Yeah.
So that gets you halfway there, because now you have access, a right of
Right.
access, you can
So-
perform the repair. But who's funding that repair? The answer? You are, the taxpayers are, the town of
That's
Townsend
right.
is.
Yeah, so
And
we didn't do that.
No, that's fine, but I'm just telling you that this is, you've got in your, I'm talking in a vacuum, I'm not talking about any
Okay.
specific project. I'm just saying that moving forward, if you were to issue a stormwater permit tomorrow, and 4 years from now, you find that, let's say it's a rental development, and the owner operator of the development is not maintaining the stormwater management system, it's an absentee landlord, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, you have a right of entry, or you're supposed to have obtained a license at the time of permitting, you have a license, a right of entry to gain access to the property, to perform the repairs yourself, in response to complaints that the town might be getting from the residents. The problem is you're funding those repairs and that deferred maintenance as a town because you're doing the work through your DPW or otherwise. And so I think Robert's point is there a mechanism to require some sort of bonding or surety to be provided? The answer is yes, you can require those sorts of things. Your rules and regulations don't currently require it. It'd be wise to incorporate it into your rules and regulations if you intend to do it. I think you're on more solid ground then than simply calling it a new policy that we have where you start requiring this. But even as a policy, you could make it a condition of approval of permits. Planning boards do it often. I'm sure you do too. I know you probably haven't had all that many subdivisions over the years,
No.
but some communities have subdivisions have a new one every 6 months or every 3 months. And it's a fairly typical requirement of a subdivision approval that there be a form of bond. Now, usually those are short-term bonds. Those are for the term of construction. So during the term of construction, something happens, the final coat is in place in the roadway and potholes start to form. There's a fund that the town can access to perform those repairs and complete the subdivision. Otherwise, the residents who buy houses early on in the subdivision suffer when the subdivision is not ultimately completed. Longer term bonds are less common. I see them a lot in the solar energy and the wind energy arenas, because the sample solar photovoltaic installation bylaw that the Commonwealth issued, they issued a similar one for wind farms, had decommissioning bonds. And the idea would be that, okay, you put up a solar facility, the usual life of solar panels is about 30 years. So great, you permit all this green energy, they look great today, they're generating green energy, and then in 30 years or worse, in 18 years when the technology becomes outdated, the developer walks away because it's not profitable anymore. Now you have a field of solar panels, and what are you going to do about it? You've got to pay to remove them all.
Yeah.
So the decommissioning bond gives you the money to remove them if they refuse to restore the site to its natural condition when they're done with it. So that's fairly typical with solar. Less typical, but it does exist in the wind context for taking down turbines.
Erin, can you try to find out for who in town keeps records of the bonds that we hold against whatever developments or anything really? I'm sure the list isn't, like really long, but just find out.
Any development or any project or just specific to planning board that have been issued?
No, anything that has an active bond.
Okay.
I think, and we could discuss it
a
little further.
Well, a lot of stuff happens that are not foreseen, and so if an emergency arises, let's just say that there's a private roadway to a subdivision, the town of Townsend isn't responsible for the road, and something happens, we have a 100-year flood or something, and the road's all damaged, and all our citizens can't get to their homes.
Yeah, there's no
It's a
money for
private road, so and the people that originally did the subdivision don't even exist anymore. The corporation doesn't exist, and now the town has to help its citizens, and we have the burden of fixing that road, when to only learn to find that it was improperly built in the beginning and it wasn't maintained, and all this could have been prevented. So that those situations are happening more frequently now, and it just occurred to me when we were talking about this, where we're trying to protect the community with the inspections and making sure they're maintained and all this stuff. But what happens when the original applicant is not available anymore? And
so I think you have to be careful about taking this sort of to the extreme, to the nth degree, right? Because that example of a subdivision gets built, let's say it's a subdivision, it's built in 1982. It has, it's a large subdivision, probably not something you get in towns very often, but let's say it's, 12 different roadways with 250 homes, large subdivision, okay, built in 1982. You're going to require a bond that you're going to hold in perpetuity. Well, first of all, bonds are renewed annually. So whether the developer owns the project, if it's all those roadways, that bond to repair those roadways, you have to be like a $2-3 million bond to repair roadways and infrastructure. And so they get a $3 million or a $2 million bond. You've got to pay 2 to 3% of the face value of that bond on an annual basis to keep that bond active. That's fine when the developer is building it out. That's fine. That's why you require these typically during the construction phase. But even if you look at the subdivision control law, Chapter 41, Section 81U, it talks about the types of sureties, and it talks about a surety being held until infrastructure and roadways are completed. So the idea is that you should never be in a position where 20 years later you're saying, oh, these roads were never constructed correctly in the first instance. Yeah. Well, you should know that before you release the construction bond. The process is the roadways get built, you send your engineer out, the engineer confirms they've been built to town standards, and then you release the bond. If 20 years later, they have not been maintained in the ensuing 20 years and potholes form or sinkholes form or the roads are flooding and they're private roadways, well, that's on the owners of the lots that own a private roadway. I mean, that's the risk you take when you buy into a development and the roadway in which your house lot's located has not been accepted as a public way.
I could actually give you a real example because I was doing the cleaning the files in the land use office on my senior tax write-off thing. And I came across, because I live in Timberley Park, and I'm cleaning out the files. There was actually 20 years after the development, the town, I guess the residents were complaining to the town. There is a place where you go over a stream and the banks are kind of steep and it's wooded and there's a stream that goes underneath. Well, there's no like guardrails or fencing there, but it's overgrown. So 20 years after the development, the townsfolk went to the town and said, we want fencing. The town went to Hicks, back to Hicks 20 years later, I think he was
Yeah.
probably dead by then, and said, you need to come back and put in fencing. And they said, no, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. And there's no fencing there to this day, but that actually, and it was
That's the
20 years
biggest
later.
development we've had in town ever,
Ever.
was Timley Park.
And the wisest thing to do is just I see this, historically, it was a problem, it's becoming less of a problem even in smaller municipalities, but that is allowing for the creation of subdivisions. You can't determine as a planning board whether the roads remain private or become public, that's a town meeting function. You can express a preference in
Yes,
your
correct.
approval, but you can't
If it's
declare them
new.
public, you can't require them to remain private in perpetuity. That's the residents have the right to file a citizen petition and bring it to town meeting to have the roads accepted as public.
Mhm.
What you can do is you can ensure that if the development remains private, that there's some form of a homeowners association that gets created that is adequately funded, that is responsible for the maintenance of the roadways. If you don't do that, then you have residents knocking at the door 15 years later because we live on private roadways. The roadways aren't being maintained the way that they want, or there's not sufficient guardrails, or they have issues with flooding or with potholes or sinkholes or whatnot. And it's not the town's problem because it's not the town's roadway, except the residents think it is or think it should be. It gets messy. We see this over and over in
Yeah.
communities. So
I appreciate your perspective on that, because it was just a question wondering if that could be done or is it advantageous to do? And it appears it's not.
it's a balance. In some circumstances it is, but the idea of a bond in perpetuity is a real cost on the developer. and
Right, which I
eventually on the
wasn't aware of,
homeowners.
right?
Okay, with that, it's almost 8 o'clock. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have no, unless somebody has other business to bring before, okay? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.